Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now guys, my friend set me a challenge. He wanted a 1080p gaming PC, but he only had a budget of around £450. However, I managed to beat this and spend just under £400. And I want to show you how I did it. And we're going to go through each element and we're going to go through the build itself. So firstly, I've got this Hellcrack PC case. With this particular case, I was pretty impressed. It was £40.99, which is incredible. And the actual case itself will fit micro ATX, ATX itself. It's a mid-tower case and it's fantastic. The thing that impressed me the most is it comes with 4 pre-installed ARGB fans. It's very subtle. It's just the rings on the inside and details on the air, on the outside of the fans as well. Very similar to kind of like the Lee and Lee fans that you find. So I thought all of that pre-installed was a fantastic bargain. But not just that as well, it already comes installed with a fan hub, with an ARGB hub with it as well, which is all pre-installed. They wire it all up for you, so all you need to do is plug it into the motherboard. And I thought that was fantastic. Just having a look at it now, and I saw some of the reviews, and I was a little bit dubious about it, but now that I've got it and taken a look at it, I've taken the back panel off and had a look at the cables, I'm very, very impressed. Now, in terms of the actual heart of the board itself, I have gone secondhand, and this is why I say that sometimes with eBay and places like that, just go for reputable sellers. And I found someone that had high feedback, and this deal was just too good, really. So I got the MSI, and it's an Intel, as you can see, it's an Intel motherboard, the H510MA Pro. So it's not the top of the line motherboards by any means. However, this is a good entry into the budget. But with this motherboard came the CPU, which is, and I managed to get, so it's an Intel i5-11400F. So it's going to be more than capable for what we want to do. Again, not the most powerful chip, but the 11th generation with the GPU that I'm about to tell you in a minute will be able to give you 1080p gaming. But with this motherboard as well, it didn't just come with that as well. It came with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, not the best RAM. It is 2,400 megahertz at CL17. So not the best, but not the worst. Again, it will be good for the time being to keep within his budget and him be able to game until he has a bigger budget to be able to upgrade that RAM and get some faster DDR4 RAM. Of course, it is a DDR4 motherboard. But also with that as well, it comes installed with a M.2 NVMe 128 gigabyte drive. So of course, it's not going to be massive, but it's good for this, and it's going to be good for the purpose of being able to use for a Windows boot drive. It also comes pre-installed with Windows 11 Pro, and this cost me £125 and some pence plus the postage. So all in all, it just came to under £130. It was £129 and something pence. I will do a cost of everything at the end as a split down for you. So we know then that 128 gigabyte drive is not going to be enough. So I just have a Crucial drive, which I just got off Amazon as a like new for £45. And this is a terabyte drive. So this is going to be where he can store all of his files and games there. But as I said, the 128 gigabyte will be good for a boot drive, as in terms of the actual Windows itself for some speed. Now, in terms of the cooler to go alongside that, I just got an SE214XT Plus, which is a push and pull configuration cooler. Here, it does support actually a lot of the new Intel generation, the 1200 LGA, which is what this is. And obviously I said the newer stuff, the LG 1700 socket, but also does AMD as well. They come stocked with both backplates for you to be able to support both brackets. And then I also got, this is actually brand new. It is just the MAG A650 BN. It is an 80 plus power supply. I didn't really want to mess around with the power supply all that much. Sorry, I forgot to say, this cooler as well was on sale, and it was $19.99, which I thought was pretty good. That will keep our CPU nice and cool as well. And as I said, I didn't really want to mess around with going with a second-hand power supply, and I wanted it to be at least 80 plus bronze, which this one is. However, if you do have a little bit of a bigger budget, always try and go for the gold if you can. These MSIs are known to be good though, so I went with a safe option. Now, in terms of the actual GPU, I was pretty happy with this find, especially this is now in the time of the GPU shortage as I'm filming this, so it's been difficult to try and find decent priced GPUs. However, this is a GTX 1080. Now, I could have spent a tiny little bit more money and gone with a 1080 Ti, which probably produces another 30% of power on top of this one. However, this is going to be absolutely fine for 1080p gaming, which is what he wants. And I managed to pick this up for £90 plus postage. It cost me about £93 in total, which I was very, very happy with here. So all in all, I think we managed to get a pretty decent deal. Now, what we'll do is we will go into the build a little bit further, and to do that, we will start off with actually constructing the motherboard. Okay, guys, so I'm going to do and work on this motherboard. As you can see, the CPU and the M.2 drive came pre-installed. However, I'm not too happy with the NVMe drive, solely because there is no standoff. It's at the wonk, as you probably will see. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a standoff to that, and then we'll start putting in the RAM. Okay, so I've undone the screw, and all I'm going to do is just insert the standoff into there, give it a bit of lift so it does not also, so it just sits flat basically. We don't want, if we were to keep that laying down, it just puts stress on the drive, which we just don't need. You don't need it. So just added a standoff, get it nice and straight, and therefore just added the screw that was already installed. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the RAM. As I said, the RAM on this is not exactly the best RAM in the world. All of the things are already open, which is good. So you can really only install RAM in one way. The notches will match up. So as we match this up here, it will slot in one way, and we just want to put equal pressure down. And then the same with the other one. Making sure that the slots, they'll only go in one way, the slots on the board will match up, and equal pressure down. Sometimes people can get a bit afraid to put too much pressure on, and the RAM will not be inserted properly. You need to make sure the clips are fully in and the RAM is fully inserted in. Now, as you can see, obviously we already have our CPU installed. Also, just to show you the CPU, just so you guys can see, you'll be able to see there that it is, if I can get the thing, the i5-11400F. And as I said, I've got this whole bundle, everything that you're seeing right here, for £125 plus postage, £129 and some pence in total. So it took me a while to find this deal. So just make sure you keep hunting. You might not find it the first time you look on eBay. Just keep hunting for it, and you will find it eventually. So in the next steps, it's a little bit, every PC builder seems to do it differently. Some people will add the CPU cooler on now and then put it straight into the case. Some people will then put the motherboard into the case and then add the CPU cooler afterwards. Now, it swings and roundabouts because it can be difficult to put the CPU cooler in there. It just gets a bit tight when you get it in the case. But the other issue is that when you add the CPU cooler with the fans, sometimes it is more difficult for you to gain access to the screws to actually put it into the motherboard. When I built my own PC, I put it in the case first and then did the CPU cooler, and that is what I'm going to do in this situation. Always make sure that you fit the actual bracket for the CPU cooler onto the back of the motherboard, so they're putting through with the standoffs that's applied before fixing the motherboard into the case. Otherwise, you'll have to take it back out again to put it back on behind. So we're going to do that next in terms of the CPU cooler. That's why some people put the CPU cooler on first, so don't forget this step and then have to drag it all back out of the case again. Okay, so let's attach the cooler bracket. So you can see there's just a general back plate with this one. And you have the 3M case as well for help it stick to the back of the motherboard as well. I am going to, however, attach the actual brackets at this stage here, just not the actual cooler itself, so it does not get in the way. The one thing I just wanted to mention as well with this backing plate, just before I put it in, is that these screws on here, and you might sit there and wonder, well, how is it fitting? How is this one bracket fitting an LGA 1700, 1200, 1150, and also AMD? That's because you see these little screws, they move depending on the size of the hole. And then the brackets, you'll see the different holes. You'll have outside and then two on the inner. So the right on the inner one there is LGA 1200 and 1150, I believe, or the other way around, and that's 1700. And then right on the outside is AMD. So just make sure you're adjusting the screws to your motherboard. Pushed in all the way is going to be this LGA 1200 socket. Okay, so I've managed to get that behind there as well. And to be fair, they've labelled this extremely well. So you get your bag, grey spaces here are your Intel, and then you get a red bag as well for your AMD. But yet again as well, they're mixed up. Once again, you get these like grooved ones, which are not the ones that I want. These are the 1700. So I want the smooth grey ones, which are these ones here, which you can see. And they will just sit over the brackets here, and then the screws are here as well. That was a grooved one. I got the wrong one out. Another grooved one. Apparently I'm getting all the grooved ones out and not the ones that I actually need. So I'll get these all sorted and then we'll head straight back into it again. Okay, so I've got the bracket now fitted, and then what we're going to do is get it into the case. Okay guys, just a reminder, just before you put the motherboard in, first off, make sure that you put your AO shield in here. I have just done that on this case, as you can see up the top right there. Put it in from the inside and just push the four corners until you hear a click. The other thing you want to do as well before putting in there with these cases, because this has three sides of the motherboard, you need to make sure that the actual standoffs are in the correct place. If they're not, and you just add further ones, you could create a short behind the board with the metal standoff sticking into the back of the motherboard. So just make sure you move them all into the right place to the holes, and there's no extra ones at the same time. Okay, so I've had to move the standoffs up because they were up for a full ATX board. Now I've moved them up. Get yourself 100% one of these sets, because wow, they've been helpful to remove those standoffs. I could not get them out with my hands. They're not thingy, and this is the little bit here, and this bendy attachment, which you can also put on here, the standoffs right down the back, right near things, and using this to do that was absolutely life-saving. So get yourself some of these. Let's get the motherboard in. Okay, so with the case, you also get an assortment of screws. There are some additional standoffs there, and also there are motherboard screws, but there's also PSU screws in there as well, so don't get them mixed up when you're putting them in. Make sure you're using the right ones. Okay, just to show you the difference, so you see this kind of hexagonal shaped one here, that's a PSU screw, so don't use one of them. For the motherboard, you want these kind of flat edged ones here, round headed one here, which is not your motherboard screw. Those screws are for stuff like the SSD trays or hard drive trays. Okay, so once you get the motherboard all in and all lined up with the AIO and all of the standoffs, start screwing in, but you want to do it in you want to put the screws in lightly and then tighten in kind of a diagonal formation, not to put any pressure on specific points. Okay, so next up is we are going to now install the cooler. So we are going to install the main bit first because you cannot physically attach the cooler. You can see the screws here with the fans on. So you will have to put this on here first. Obviously, before you do that, make sure you remove this, because if you don't, your CPU is going to fry. And also make sure you put your thermal paste on. With the ID cooler, they have given you a little sachet of thermal paste here. However, no thank you. I will use my MX4 Arctic. So I'm going to get that thermal paste put on first. Okay, so I'm not very good at getting the exact amount of thermal paste. There's only certain people that are good at that. So I've already cleaned off, again, even though that there was nothing on it, I've just cleaned it with isopropyl alcohol. The higher percentage of alcohol, the better. So I've just cleaned it off. So I'm just going to go for the X pattern. Just make sure I get a good amount on there. It's only a small CPU, so it's probably going to be too much. However, at least we know it's going to be covered. And then next up, we will put on the CPU cooler. So you'll notice in here that these little screws are actually hollow, and they go over the little screws that are poking out under here. So just make sure that you get it lined up as much as you possibly can, and then put it on, screw down, and away we go. Okay, so the main block is now on. Then we just need to attach the fans here, and there's two of them, so we're going to have it as a push and pull straight out the back fan here as well. So these just attach with just these little hooks. They just hook through these holes and just clamp straight onto the sides of this block. So I will get that sorted. The other thing I really like as well, so each fan has an individual cable, and you might be sitting there thinking, well, how are we then meant to attach that to the CPU fan, if it's a CPU fan header, if there's only one of them? They give you one of these, so you can plug two fans in to the CPU header. So the CPU header will control both the fans to cool the CPU. Right, let's get it fitted. Okay, so the CPU cooler is on, and it is in a pull and push through, and it should go then straight out of the exhaust fan, which is already situated on the back. These front fans are situated is bringing air in, so it should just bring the air, nice cool air in through the CPU and straight out the back of the exhaust fan. Okay, so I have fed the fan cables out the back. I've attached that splitter, and then I've fed that bit back through and attached it to the CPU header just there. I will try and sort out some bit more of cable management. It's just difficult with the two wires coming off the actual CPU cooler fans itself. But next, what we're going to do is we're then going to attach all of the cables for the outer case. Okay, guys, so I have connected the front cables, the fans, the system fans. It's a little bit annoying that in this case, for some reason, all the cables coming off the fans themselves are black. However, for some reason, on the hub that they use, the one that they come out to attach to the actual system fan header is white, which is a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. Right, next up is we are going to then connect in the PSU. So that goes in the section down under here from the back. I have also just connected the hard drive just under there. Ignore all these cables for the time being. I will cable manage them, but I've attached that onto there as well, ready for the SATA cables to be connected. Okay, so the PSU is now installed, just with the 4 screws there in the back. I did use the screws from the PSU box and not the PC case. Yes, it's a complete mess at the moment. We will do some cable management very, very shortly. Now I just need to sort out all of the motherboard cables and plug them all in to, for example, the hard drive into the motherboard and the power, the SATA cables, the ATX power cable, which is this big one here, and the CPU, etc. So I'll get that done. Okay, there you go. So I have installed all of the cables, including, so the PSU is fitted, all of the cables are diverted to the motherboard, GPU is in, and I've done a bit of cable management as well. It's not going to be perfect from the front, but there you go. Next up, let's see if it works. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a makeshift setup. You have to apologise. I'm doing it on the main TV just as a quick test, just while I'm down here. So let's make sure that we can have some power, maybe. Oh, okay, the RGB works. It's on. And we have post, guys. That is what we are looking to see. Look at that, actually. Those fans look fantastic. I'm happy with that. And it's straight up into Windows 11 Pro, which he said that he'd done, and he'd put the drivers on. So I will go ahead, download all the drivers and bits and pieces. Guys, we've managed to build this PC for now just under 400. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of the costings at the end now. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and we can do some more videos exactly like this one, building a PC together, talking about technology and doing what we all love the most. So guys, thank you so much, and we'll catch you in the next video.